A warm greeting to you. Today is Wednesday, July 15, 2026. This is meteorologist Ruben Garcia. In today's video, I will talk about two areas of interest for tropical cyclone development that are being monitored by the National Hurricane Center in the Atlantic region. The first is located over waters off the southeastern United States, where there is a low probability that a tropical cyclone will develop during the next 7 days. I will also discuss a new tropical wave emerging from Africa, which has just been highlighted by the National Hurricane Center with development chances during the next 48 hours. But before talking about both disturbances, I wanted to mention that we now have a new tropical storm in the eastern Pacific. It is named Tropical Storm Elida, and it is forecast to continue moving west-northwest as it strengthens into a hurricane. Fortunately, however, it is expected to remain well away from the coasts of Mexico and Central America. I also want to remind you that during the next few weeks, the eastern Pacific could see the development of 2 to 3 additional tropical cyclones, which at the moment appear likely to remain on tracks far from land. Nevertheless, we will continue monitoring for any changes in the forecast. Now let's take a closer look at the region off the southeastern United States. As you can see, this morning the National Hurricane Center highlighted the area with up to a 20% chance of tropical cyclone development, specifically over the Gulf of Mexico west of the Florida Peninsula and across areas east and southeast of Georgia and South Carolina. The National Hurricane Center will be monitoring an area of disturbed weather expected to develop over the region early next week, because some models suggest that a low-pressure system could form and may encounter marginally favorable conditions for some type of tropical cyclone development. However, the good news is that, for now, most weather models do not show significant development, with the exception of a few operational model runs that occasionally indicate the possible formation of a tropical depression. For example, in the latest run of the American Ensemble model, none of its members developed a tropical cyclone during the next 7 days. However, when we look at the European model projection, 2 members develop perhaps a tropical depression or tropical storm near the Florida Panhandle coast in approximately 6 to 7 days. Even so, this represents less than 10% of the members of the European model. On the other hand, we also have some members of Google's artificial intelligence weather model, in which a few members develop a low-pressure system, perhaps a tropical depression, south of the Florida Panhandle, while others show development parallel to the coasts of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia in approximately 5 to 7 days. But just like the members of the European model, we are talking about only 10 to 15% of the members of Google's artificial intelligence model. This is consistent with the National Hurricane Center's tropical weather outlook, which keeps the chances of tropical cyclone development at only 20%. Here at Hurricane Info, I will continue to closely monitor the evolution of this future system, although for now, if it does develop, it is expected to remain relatively weak. However, residents of Florida should remain alert to the possibility of heavy rainfall during the upcoming week. For example, the European model forecasts rainfall totals of 4 to 8 inches along the west coast of the Florida Peninsula during the next 7 days. However, it is worth mentioning that the American model, which does not show significant development, forecasts rainfall totals of only 1 to 2 inches. Now let's move to the tropical Atlantic, specifically near the coast of Africa or south of the Cabo Verde Islands, where we have a strong tropical wave accompanied by a low-pressure system that has shown some signs of organization. It is accompanied by some vorticity and a persistent area of convection along the wave axis. This is why the National Hurricane Center has assigned this area only a 10% chance of development during the next 48 hours. However, for the reasons I will explain over the next few minutes, the window for any type of tropical cyclone organization will last only about 48 hours. After that, the system will encounter unfavorable conditions for development or strengthening. So for now it appears that it will not pose any tropical cyclone threat to the Caribbean region. First, I wanted you to look at this graphic showing that sea surface temperatures just west of Africa are running 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above normal, which has certainly helped the tropical wave maintain an active area of convection. However, there are other factors that will make development more difficult. One of them is a Saharan dust cloud located north of the circulation, which we can see in greater detail on this satellite image. We can see that another dust cloud with high concentrations will soon move toward the tropical Atlantic. This Saharan dust, along with dry air, will eventually begin interfering with the circulation of the tropical wave. That is exactly what the latest run of the European model shows. Here you can see the circulation of the tropical wave, which for now remains within an area of high atmospheric moisture. But just to the north, represented by the brown color, we see the future movement of dry air as the tropical wave advances westward. In this case, the European model projects that by the weekend, dry air and Saharan dust will begin entering the circulation of the tropical wave, causing it to weaken significantly. And as if that were not enough, as the tropical wave moves westward and once it crosses 40 degrees west longitude, It will encounter strong southwesterly wind shear that will also prevent significant organization or strengthening beginning this weekend. It is worth mentioning that this wind shear jet is the result of the El Niño phenomenon in the Pacific. In fact, these are the conditions expected to persist during the coming months, and that will largely protect the Caribbean Sea region. Of course, we cannot rule out the possibility that some system may eventually manage to organize into a tropical cyclone. In my opinion, one of the main reasons why the National Hurricane Center assigned the area a 10% chance of development is that in this morning's run, the European model developed a tropical depression or tropical storm between Thursday and Saturday. However, in the midday run that has just been released, it no longer shows the development of a tropical cyclone. That is why I suspect that, for now, the National Hurricane Center will keep the development probability at 10%. And once again, remember that once it crosses 40 degrees west longitude, conditions will become truly unfavorable for additional tropical cyclone organization. In fact, this afternoon, none of the global models developed this tropical wave. As for the ensemble members, here you can see that in the American model, essentially none of them develop a tropical depression. In the case of the European model, only about 5 to 10% develop a tropical depression, although they dissipate it within about 48 hours. Meanwhile, Google's artificial intelligence models maintain only slight tropical organization without significant development. So in conclusion, for now we really do not anticipate significant development from this tropical wave, perhaps only a brief window for possible development during the next 36 hours as it passes near or just south of Cabo Verde. However, the chances decrease dramatically as it moves westward. Therefore, the Lesser Antilles can remain calm for now because there is no tropical cyclone threat. Hopefully this tropical wave will eventually move through the region and provide some much-needed rainfall relief to parts of the Caribbean that are already experiencing rainfall deficits and some drought. Well, that's all for today's video. I will continue monitoring the situation, and if necessary, I will record another update for you tomorrow. Before I go, I would like to ask you to give this video a like. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the notification bell so you will be notified whenever I upload new videos. I hope everyone has an excellent day. See you next time.